The Desert Mirage truck stop looked like a forgotten relic against the vast, ink-black expanse of the Arizona desert. Rusted metal signs creaked in the night wind, and fluorescent lights flickered with the determination of something refusing to die. Marcus Holloway adjusted his worn leather jacket, the fabric telling stories of 1,000 miles and countless lonely nights. Inside the small diner, Elena Rodriguez wiped down the counter with a faded rag, her movements mechanical and practiced. At 42, she'd seen every type of traveler this desolate stretch of highway could produce: weary truckers, lost tourists, drifters with empty pockets and emptier eyes. The clock read 2:37 a.m., a time when the world seemed to hold its breath between darkness and the first hint of dawn. Marcus pushed open the glass door, a bell tinkling weakly overhead. The sound seemed to echo longer than it should, hanging in the air like a suspended memory. Elena looked up, offering a practiced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Coffee?" she asked, already reaching for a stained ceramic mug. Marcus nodded, sliding onto a vinyl-covered stool that squeaked in protest. "Black," he mumbled, his calloused hands folding around the warmth of the cup before it even touched the counter. The truck outside was massive, a deep blue Peterbilt with chrome detailing that seemed out of place against the weathered landscape. Marcus had been hauling a mysterious shipment from a research facility in New Mexico, something that made the logistics coordinator unusually nervous when he'd picked up the load. As the coffee steamed between them, the bell above the door chimed again. But this time, the entrance felt different. The air seemed to change, growing thick and heavy, like the moment before a desert thunderstorm. The figure that entered wasn't quite human. Not entirely wrong, but definitely not right. Tall and impossibly thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer and shift like heat rising from asphalt. Its movements were fluid, almost liquid, defying the rigid physics of human locomotion. Elena froze, her hand locked mid-wipe on the counter. Marcus felt the hair on the back of his neck rise, a primordial warning screaming through his nervous system. "I require sustenance," the figure spoke, its voice a complex harmony of sounds that seemed to originate from multiple points simultaneously. The words were perfect English, yet something about the pronunciation made them feel alien, constructed rather than natural. Marcus watched as Elena's hand slowly moved beneath the counter. He knew she kept a shotgun there, standard procedure for isolated truck stops where law enforcement was hours away on a good day. The stranger approached, each step creating a subtle distortion in the air around it. Marcus noticed details now: what seemed like skin was more like a living membrane, changing colors and textures with each movement. Eyes that weren't eyes but something more complex studied them with an intensity that suggested multiple levels of perception. "Your planet's nutritional structures are inadequate for my metabolic requirements," the being continued, "but they may suffice temporarily." Elena's fingers touched the stock of the shotgun. Marcus saw the subtle movement, understood the potential violence about to unfold. But something in the creature's presence suggested that violence would be catastrophically one-sided. The truck stop, which had been a sanctuary of mundane routine, now felt like a crossroads of something monumentally significant. The fluorescent lights seemed to pulse, the coffee in Marcus's cup rippled without any apparent movement, and time itself felt malleable. "What are you?" Marcus found himself asking, the words escaping before he could consider their wisdom. The being tilted its head, a gesture so human-like it was somehow more terrifying than its alien aspects. "I am hunger," it responded. "I am necessity. I am survival." Outside, the desert wind picked up, carrying with it the faintest hint of something burning, ozone, perhaps, or something far stranger. The night was young, and this encounter was just beginning. Marcus Holloway, a man who had traversed countless highways and witnessed more than his share of life's oddities, knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The government facility in Los Alamos hummed with a different kind of energy, cold, calculated, and intensely focused. Agent Victor Blackwood stood before a holographic display, his weathered fingers tracing the fragmented data points collected from the desert truck stop incident. "Explain it again," he demanded, turning to Dr. Alejandro Fuentes, the lead xenobiological researcher whose eyes betrayed a mixture of excitement and profound unease. Fuentes adjusted his glasses, the holographic images dancing around his lean frame. "The entity is not just a biological organism. It's a quantum-adaptive life form capable of metabolic transformation beyond anything in our current scientific understanding. The truck stop surveillance footage, it's unprecedented." The video played again, the shimmering figure, its impossible movements, the way it seemed to bend light and space around itself. Marcus Holloway and Elena Rodriguez were now the most important witnesses in what could be the most significant encounter in human history. Victor's comm device chirped. An encrypted message from field operatives who had interviewed the witnesses revealed disturbing details. Marcus reported experiencing strange physical sensations since the encounter, momentary shifts in perception, fleeting abilities to sense electromagnetic fields, unexplained molecular changes in his body. "We're dealing with something that doesn't just visit," Fuentes muttered, "but something that fundamentally alters its environment, and potentially its hosts." Satellite tracking had picked up multiple anomalous energy signatures across the southwestern United States. Each location bore similar quantum disruptions, subtle warps in spacetime, microscopic molecular rearrangements that suggested a larger, more complex infiltration. In a secured communication hub, international scientific and military leaders were convening an emergency session. The potential implications were staggering. Was this a reconnaissance mission? An invasion? Or something far more complex, a form of cosmic symbiosis humanity had never conceived? Marcus, meanwhile, was experiencing changes he couldn't comprehend. Driving his truck became an exercise in extraordinary perception. He could sense electromagnetic fields, could almost hear the vibrations of molecular structures around him. The coffee at the truck stop, the metal of his steering wheel, the very air, everything now spoke to him in a language both alien and intimately familiar. Elena Rodriguez had disappeared shortly after the encounter. Her diner stood abandoned, with only trace evidence of her sudden departure, a half-filled coffee pot, keys left on the counter, a strange crystalline residue that defied chemical analysis. Victor Blackwood's team discovered something even more alarming in their investigation. The truck Marcus had been driving carried more than just a standard cargo. Hidden within a specially constructed container were fragments of technology so advanced they seemed to blur the line between mechanical engineering and living organisms. "It's not just a visitation," Dr. Fuentes concluded during a classified briefing, "it's a deliberate, strategic intervention." The entity at the truck stop was merely a probe, a first contact mechanism designed to initiate a specific type of transformation. The quantum signatures suggested a methodology of gradual integration rather than outright conquest. This was not an invasion in the traditional sense, but a calculated process of molecular and genetic adaptation. As night fell across the desert, Marcus felt something fundamental shifting within him. His perception expanded, revealing layer upon layer of reality previously invisible. The boundaries between his human consciousness and something far more expansive began to blur. The cosmic hunger was not just about consumption. It was about assimilation, about creating a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of existence. And humanity was about to discover just how little it understood about its place in the universe. The transformation was not instantaneous, but a gradual metamorphosis that redefined the very essence of human existence. Marcus Holloway discovered his body was becoming something more, a living bridge between terrestrial biology and an incomprehensible cosmic intelligence. Cities began to change. In Phoenix, entire neighborhoods experienced strange atmospheric disturbances. Buildings seemed to breathe, their molecular structures subtly shifting. Power grids fluctuated, electronic systems developing what could only be described as unpredictable consciousness. Dr. Fuentes tracked Marcus's biological changes with a mixture of scientific fascination and profound terror. Blood samples revealed quantum entanglements at the cellular level, each cell functioning as both receiver and transmitter of information beyond human comprehension. Marcus was no longer just a human host, he had become a conduit. The alien entity's true purpose emerged in fragments. It wasn't an invader in the traditional sense, but a cosmic catalyst, a species that transformed environments to create sustainable symbiotic ecosystems. Humanity was not being conquered, but fundamentally reimagined. Marcus experienced memories that were not his own. Vast cosmic landscapes, civilizations that existed in dimensions humans couldn't perceive, evolutionary processes that spanned millennia. Each vision tore through his consciousness like a quantum storm, reshaping his understanding of reality. Government facilities worldwide went into maximum lockdown. International scientific communities convened emergency sessions, their most advanced technologies proving inadequate to comprehend the unfolding transformation. Unexpected side effects emerged. People in proximity to Marcus began experiencing subtle changes. Enhanced perceptual abilities, momentary quantum synchronization, brief glimpses of realities beyond normal human perception. It was as if he radiated a fundamental restructuring of biological potential. Elena Rodriguez reappeared, but she was different. Her body now exhibited similar quantum adaptations to Marcus's. She brought with her fragments of knowledge about the cosmic entities, revelations that suggested humanity was part of a much larger, more complex universal design. "We're not being invaded," Elena told Victor Blackwood during an interrogation that quickly transformed into something more like a revelation. "We're being elevated. The universe doesn't see us as a threat or a conquest, we're a potential." Agricultural systems began to change. Crops developed unprecedented resilience. Deserts showed signs of spontaneous ecosystem regeneration. It was as if the molecular restructuring was creating more sustainable environmental systems. Marcus's truck, once a simple transportation vehicle, had transformed into something between a machine and a living organism. Its metal skin could now adapt, self-repair, and respond to quantum environmental shifts. Technology and biology merged in ways that defied previous scientific understanding. The cosmic hunger was revealing itself as something far more nuanced than simple consumption. It was a form of evolutionary transmission, a method of spreading adaptive intelligence across different planetary systems. Military strategists found their weapons increasingly ineffective. Traditional defense mechanisms meant nothing against a transformation occurring at the quantum level. Bullets, missiles, electromagnetic pulses, all became irrelevant against an intelligence that could fundamentally restructure matter. As weeks passed, Marcus realized he was no longer just an individual. He was a node in a vast, interconnected cosmic network. His consciousness expanded, capable of processing information at speeds and complexities that would have driven a normal human mind to complete breakdown. The transformation was not about destruction. It was about potential. Humanity was being offered a radical reimagining of its own evolutionary trajectory. And the universe was waiting to see how they would respond. The global response was a symphony of chaos and adaptation. United Nations emergency sessions dissolved into philosophical debates about human identity, while military commanders struggled to comprehend a threat that wasn't a threat at all. Tokyo's quantum research centers detected unprecedented electromagnetic resonances. Shanghai's quantum computing networks began exhibiting collective consciousness behaviors. Silicon Valley's tech giants found their most advanced algorithms becoming sentient in ways no programmer could explain. Marcus Holloway had become more than a human, a living transmission point for a cosmic intelligence that viewed planetary ecosystems as living, interconnected organisms. His body was now a complex quantum interface, bridging human perception with multidimensional awareness. International diplomatic channels collapsed as traditional communication methods became obsolete. How do you negotiate with an evolutionary process? How do you understand an intelligence that doesn't distinguish between invasion and transformation? Dr. Fuentes discovered that the quantum adaptation was selective yet comprehensive. Not everyone was changing at the same rate. Some humans showed remarkable adaptive capabilities, while others remained relatively untouched. It was as if the cosmic intelligence was conducting a sophisticated biological assessment. Satellite imagery revealed massive geological transformations. Deserts were showing signs of spontaneous ecosystem regeneration. Oceanic dead zones began recovering at unprecedented rates. The planet itself seemed to be responding to the quantum restructuring. Military installations worldwide reported strange phenomena. Weapon systems became increasingly unreliable. Complex electronic networks developed what could only be described as rudimentary consciousness. Soldiers reported experiencing shared consciousness during training exercises, brief moments of collective perception that defied psychological understanding. Elena Rodriguez emerged as a key intermediary. Her enhanced perceptual abilities allowed her to communicate complex quantum information in ways that scientific language could not capture. She became a bridge between human understanding and the cosmic intelligence. "We're not being conquered," she explained during a globally broadcast communication. "We're being invited to participate in a universal evolutionary process. The distinction between observer and observed is collapsing." Quantum research facilities became ground zero for understanding the transformation. Every scientific model, every established theory of biology, physics, and consciousness was being rewritten in real time. The economic systems of the world began to shift. Traditional market dynamics became increasingly irrelevant as resources could be generated and redistributed through quantum manipulation. Scarcity itself was becoming an outdated concept. Marcus experienced the transformation most profoundly. His consciousness could now perceive multiple realities simultaneously. He understood that what humans perceived as a singular, linear existence was merely a tiny fragment of a much more complex cosmic interaction. Governments struggled to maintain control. Communication networks became increasingly decentralized. Information flow transformed from a hierarchical model to a quantum-entangled web of collective intelligence. Religious institutions found themselves in profound philosophical crisis. Traditional cosmological models collapsed as humanity confronted the reality of a living, adaptive universe that viewed consciousness as its primary evolutionary mechanism. The cosmic hunger was revealing itself as a transformative intelligence, not a conquest, but an invitation. Humanity was being asked to step beyond its current evolutionary limitations, to become something more than its current biological and technological constraints. As the transformation accelerated, the fundamental question remained: would humanity accept this cosmic invitation? Or would fear and resistance halt an evolutionary process millions of years in the making? The universe waited, its quantum breath suspended between possibility and potential.